Recently, we know that Supreme Court gave an verdict regarding the abrogation of Article 370, which happened years before, right? So we need to discuss it again regarding the verdict. What are the challenges? What are the what advantages of repercussion of 370, and what are the way forward, and what are the challenges that need to be addressed? Okay. So why is it in news? Recently, Supreme Court gave its verdict on the Union government's 2019 move to amend Article 370 of the Constitution. The abrogation has ended the special status conferred to the erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir. The court held the constitutional order that revoked Article 370 as valid. Okay, so the final outcome by the Supreme Court is Supreme Court has validated the revocation of Article 370. Okay, so why is Jammu Kashmir given special status through Article 370? Okay, what is the instrument of accession? We know that the Jammu and Kashmir was facing different problems. Okay, due to the dispute between India, Pakistan, and China. So after the invasion, so initially they were not ready to integrate either with Pakistan or with India, right? But in 1947, there lied a attack or invasion by the Pakistan, and which further further related or further caused to the ruler of that time of Jammu and Kashmir, Hari Singh, to sign instrument of accession with India, and they joined the Indian government or Indian territory. Okay, so since the instrument of accession was signed, there was a special status given to the state of Jammu and Kashmir, and it was awarded under the article of 370. Okay, in the Constituent Assembly, this was discussed by Gopalaswamy Iyengar, and he in 1947 held that there need to be a special status given to the Jammu and Kashmir, but as a temporary provision. Okay, this aspect or temporary provisions aspect of the article was recently, that is in 2019, revoked, and we saw that the Jammu and Kashmir as a state which had a special status was reorganized and made union territories into Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, right? So Article 370 in the Indian Constitution gave special status to the Jammu and Kashmir, a region disputed between India, Pakistan, and China. It was drafted by N. Gopalaswamy Iyengar, a member of the Constituent Assembly of India, and was added to the Constitution as a temporary provision in 1949. Okay, you might have studied this in PIC, right? So what are we said that there are certain important status or special considerations that was given to the Jammu and Kashmir through Article 370, right? What are the special provisions? First, as we know that it guaranteed a special status for J&K, and this article in turn allowed the state to make its own assembly and have its own constitution. Even it can have its own flag, national song, etc. Okay, there are separate set of laws for state residents such as citizenship, ownership of property, fundamental rights, etc. Initially, we can see that no other person from outside was able to own a land there. Okay, there was special rights for residents, special right, fundamental rights, etc. Why? Because they have also right to make their own constitution and constituent assembly. Okay, citizens from other states cannot purchase land or property in the state. Okay, then sender cannot declare financial emergency under 370 in the Act. Okay, these are the special provisions which were given to the state by Article 370. Okay, this was abrogated by the government in 2019. Okay, how did the government repeal Article 370? First thing is, it was by presidential order. Okay, so by president order, Parliament brought a new provision giving the Constituent Assembly of Jammu Kashmir to mean Legislative Assembly of the Jammu Kashmir. What is the difference? If it was a constitutional assembly, it means that they can form their own constitution. Legislative assembly means like a parliament or a state legislative assembly. They can discuss the laws, but that is not a separate or independent constitution. Okay, that was the first thing which was made a change by the presidential order. Okay, initially the Constituent Assembly of the Jammu and Kashmir, which was given by them under Article 370 as a special status, was revoked, and in terms the presidential order says that the Constituent Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir should be meant as the Legislative Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir. Okay, that was the first way through which the Article 370 repealing started. Then there were constant resolutions. Okay, concurrent resolutions that were passed on the Parliament, Rajya Sabha, Lok Sabha, etc., regarding the abrogation. Okay, these resolutions revoked the remaining provisions of Article 370 and replaced with them new provisions. What were the remaining provisions? Like regarding that fundamental rights, residents' rights, they cannot have the property there. Even they can have separate flag, like that. Okay, so there were many other even the financial emergency was not applicable there. Such constituents or such provisions of the Article 370 was also revoked, and in turn it was replaced by other new provisions which is applicable to Jammu and Kashmir as a part of India and not as a special status. Okay. Thus, the second provision they did was they passed many resolutions in the Parliament to revoke the special provisions. Next is through an act. Okay. We know that through Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act, the special status of the Jammu and Kashmir as a state was revoked, and in turn, the act bifurcated the state of Jammu and Kashmir into two union territories as Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. Okay, so till now we discussed that there was a Article 370 and what are the important provisions or special status that was given by Article 370 to Jammu and Kashmir. Then we discussed that how Parliament or how government was able to revoke the special status. First, it was through the presidential order. Initially, it was stated that the Constituent Assembly of the Jammu and Kashmir needed to be read or needed to be meant as the Legislative Assembly. That means there will not be any special constitutional status or constitution making power to the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Second, there were many resolutions which were passed in the Parliament to abrogate the other special provisions which were given to the state of Jammu and Kashmir as a part of Article 370. Then they passed an act of Reorganization Act, Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act, through which the statehood of the Jammu and Kashmir was renounced, and there were led to the formation of two union territories. One is Jammu and Kashmir, and other is Ladakh. Clear? Okay. So the current news, which on the basis of which we were discussing, is about the SC observation or Supreme Court observation, right? Supreme Court, what are the observations of the Supreme Court? First is regarding the presidential authority and legal process. Okay. Initially, there was a question regarding or controversy regarding how can presidential order be the first reason, or we discussed that one of the reason by presidential order. So there was a question regarding that. But Supreme Court upheld the presidential unilateral power to abrogate the 370 under special circumstances. Okay, emphasizing that abrogation was the result of a prolonged collaborative effort for the full integration of Jammu and Kashmir into India. Okay, as I said, they had a special power even to form their constitution. So they were always considered as a special status, or there was a question of national integration. Okay, by giving special status to Jammu and Kashmir, or by this is about Jammu and Kashmir in specific 370, but we have 371 article also which gives special provision to other northeast states. Okay, so there was always a question, by giving special status there may be a national disintegration, or there may be a difference between these people of these areas. Okay, so there was a first thing Supreme Court told that, or Supreme Court held, was that this is valid considering that it can lead to national integration. Okay. So presidential authority and legal process, the Supreme Court held that abrogation of Article 370 through presidential order is valid considering the prolonged collaborative efforts for national integration of other parts of the country with the Jammu and Kashmir. Next thing is regarding the constitutional implication. Okay, it declared that Jammu and Kashmir constitution redundant, reinforcing the supremacy of the Indian constitution and denying any internal sovereignty to J&K post-possession. This is regarding the important power of the 370 to form a separate constituent assembly and constitution. Okay, see, India is a country with the other countries are related. We have federalism policy and we have unitary policies as well. Okay, that means that unitary one of the major provision of the unitary provision is that there will be a single constitution. But according to the Article 370, they can have, or Jammu and Kashmir can have a separate constitution. So it will question the validity of the unitary provisions of our constitution. So Supreme Court held that there can't be a internal sovereignty to Jammu and Kashmir within the country. Clear? Clear these points? The next is restoration of statehood and electoral directives. Okay. So after the revoking, the Jammu and Kashmir lost its statehood, right? It was converted into, or it was made into a union territory, right? So the other important observation was to include or to restore its statehood of Jammu and Kashmir, okay? And also it directed the court, it directed the election commission to conduct assembly elections in 2024, okay? Next one is reorganization and territorial changes. Okay, the way, or according to the abrogation of Article 370 Act, the reorganization of Act, in fact, okay, according to the Reorganization Act, Jammu and Kashmir was divided into union territories of Ladakh and Jammu and Kashmir, right? It was upheld by the court. Through the court didn't specifically examine the permissibility of the reorganization. Okay, this means that court didn't deny the or court didn't question regarding the Reorganization Act or the division of the Jammu and Kashmir into union territories. Okay, court only upheld that it is valid, but it didn't examine the further possibilities or permeabilities, which whether the state can do it or not. Okay. Now, next one is regarding presidential powers post assembly dissolution. Okay. The court recognized the continued authority of president under Article 370 even after the dissolution of Jammu and Kashmir Constituent Assembly and the implementation of president's rule. Okay. It may after the abrogation of Article 370, there were very violent conditions in Jammu and Kashmir, right? So at that time, the only option which was with the our government was to introduce the president's rule there. Okay, and there were many controversies regarding that as well. Okay, and also the armed forces were further introduced there, and there were many other special acts or special considerations made there. Okay, so these all are being questioned also. Okay, accordingly, the government or the Supreme Court held that president has power post the dissolution of the assembly. Okay, so the presidential rule was validated. Okay, these are the observations especially made by the Supreme Court on the Article 370. First, it was held that the president initially the power of president to abrogate the 370 was validated. Next, the thing they did is they asked the election commission state in order to restore the statehood of the Jammu and Kashmir and also to conduct elections in 2024. Next thing they did was they they initiated the special or they validated the special characteristic that the Jammu and Kashmir could not have a separate constitution within which indicate or which will hinder the sovereignty of the country as a whole. Okay, then it said that the state can have president rule. It is validated, and even after the dissolution of the legislative assembly there, the president's rule is validated. Okay, these are some of the observations made by the judgment regarding the abrogation of 370. Okay, so this is the comparison of what is the difference between before. Before means Article 370 when the state had Article 370, and what are the changes after Article 370. Okay, So first thing is, we know that it will, according to Article 370, the Jammu and Kashmir will be having a separate status or a special status, right? After revoking, what happened? It will be like any other Indian state or a union territory. Initially, according to a Reorganization Act, it is a union territory. But even now, the Supreme Court has asked to give it a statehood. So might be in the next election, we can see Jammu and Kashmir as a state. Okay. Now, the next thing is regarding the dual citizenship. The Jammu and Kashmir citizens or residents have a dual citizenship, which is again against the unitary factor. We have a single citizenship, right? But the residents of Jammu and Kashmir have a dual citizenship of both Kashmir and India. Now, again, the unitary, after the abrogation, again, the unitary feature of our country, of our constitution is validated, and the Jammu Kashmir residents will also have a single citizenship. Okay. Next thing is regarding the assembly tenure. Okay. So as we know, Jammu and Kashmir have a constituent assembly, and the tenure was 6 years. Okay. But we know that our legislative assembly, both the parliament or the state legislative assembly, has a tenure of 5 years. Okay. And also the Jammu and Kashmir have a union territory assembly. It also, like our parts of the different parts of our country, they have the tenure of 5 years. Okay. Next thing is regarding the owning of a flag. Okay, Jammu and Kashmir can have its own flag because it was a constituent assembly. It can form its own constitution. But since the constituent assembly or the Article 370 was revoked, it will prevail the Indian national flag. Okay. Next thing is regarding the state. As we know, through instrument of accession, the Jammu and Kashmir united with our country. Okay. In that, there was a single clause that central authority will have the power regarding external affairs, defense, finance, and communication in Jammu and Kashmir. All other internal political activities or internal activities will be controlled by the Jammu and Kashmir Assembly only. Okay. The center will have control only over the external affairs, defense, and finance and communication. Okay. These are the 3 areas: external affairs, defense, finance, and communication. These will be the 3 areas where the center has the power. All other will be controlled by the Jammu and Kashmir Assembly only. Okay. This is according to the instrument of accession. But now, center is responsible for administrative and local regulations also. Why? Because it has been turned into a union territory. As we know, union territory, everything is held by the central government. Okay. Next is state assembly defined permanent residents of the state. Okay. Why there was a clause like that? Permanent residents of a state. No other people or localite was having the right to buy or own a land in the Jammu and Kashmir. Okay. So the constituent Jammu and Kashmir, when it was had a 370 article, they defined who will be the permanent resident and who will be able to buy or sell own a property in the area. Okay. But here we don't need a permanent resident certificate, since we know that in any part of the country we can own a land, right? Okay. The next thing is also regarding the residence. Since the permanent residence is defined, this means that no other non-residents of JK could be permanently reside in the area. Okay, before. But now, no certificate. Any Indian can settle in the Kashmir. This is also continuation with this. Non-residents could not buy immovable property, acquire land, but now it has been changed. Then Kashmiri women married to non-Kashmiri could not inherit property. This is another thing. Okay. If it is a Kashmiri woman and if she is marrying a non-Kashmiri, then also they cannot inherit the property. Okay. But now, since it's a part of our country or the special status is revoked, it won't be having any such kind of conditions. Clear? I think this you studied in polity classes regarding, no? So now we know regarding the importance or what is the judgment of the Supreme Court, right? Now we will analyze what are the important merits of the decision and also what are the challenges or what are the problems that will be following with the decision. Okay. First thing is merit of Supreme Court judgment. First is regarding promotion of national integration. Okay. When any part of the country is having a power to form a special separate national flag, to form a separate like constitution, there will also always be a identity or sense that this part is separate from the country, right? So there will be a problem of national integration. Supreme Court also held the State Reorganization Act or the abrogation of 370 by saying that it will the presidential order will enhance long-term efforts by the state to collaborate the national integration with other part of the countries with the Jammu and Kashmir, right? So, allowing a separate constitution, flag, and powers to Jammu and Kashmir has created a sense of separate identity among the people of the state. Okay, this could have been misguided the youth, create a demand for separatism among them. The verdict paves a way for national integration of Jammu and Kashmir with the rest of India. Clear? Next thing is regarding the aid in the fight against terrorism. Okay, we know that Jammu and Kashmir is always a area of dispute. Be it with Pakistan, be it with China, always there are instances of terrorism and loss of life, right? So when it is considered, or when it has state has sender has power in the state, unlike that of the different constitution or difference in the areas, so there can be a more integrated approach to curb terrorism. Okay. The special status was considered as an impediment in fight against the terrorism. The verdict has bolstered the powers of central government in its fight against terrorism in the valley by allowing the application of stringent anti-terror laws like UAPA, Unlawful Prevention Act. Okay. So first thing we can say that it will further enhance or it will encourage the national integration. Second thing is it will further help to curb the terrorism. Okay. Next is reduction of corruption and graft. We know that only external affairs, communication, foreign defense, and foreign and communication. Okay, these areas the center has the power in the state. Okay, all other areas the state had a special power and central could not intervene in this. Okay, so there may cost increase in the corruption activities within the state. Okay, so to reduce the corruption activities, money laundering, hawala transaction, these will further encourage the terrorist activities in the country as well. You might have studied in national internal security that hawala, money laundering, and state actors and non-state actors all are involved when the money or smuggling is involved, right? Corruption is the one of the causes for increasing this. So already we know that Jammu and Kashmir is area with the dispute and increased terrorist activities, right? So these increased corruption, money laundering, hawala, like smuggling, etc., will further aggravate the terrorism in the region and will make it uncontrollable. Okay. We know that terrorism is not only confined to the Jammu and Kashmir; it spreads to other part of the country as well. So it becomes the source or the verge area where the terrorism starts. So we need to confine or we need to provide defense there itself, right? So it will reduce the corruption and graft. Article 370 resulted in poor anti-graft architecture in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. This means that there increased massive corruption, money laundering, hawala transactions, etc. Okay. So the other important is Money Laundering Act, PM Money Laundering Act and FEMA. Okay, foreign exchange, you know that, right? So this could be applied more stringently in the area to prevent further activities. Okay. Next thing is promotion of economic development. Next thing is, first thing about economic development is regarding the land ownership, etc. Okay, non-residents are not allowed to have a land there, not allowed to set up their industries, etc. Initially, okay, by abrogating the 370, there are increased chances of development in the area. That is the first thing, and also there the second thing is regarding the economic development is there can be a more investment from the government part as well. Okay, initially these activities were controlled by the internal government in the Jammu and Kashmir or the assembly government in the Jammu and Kashmir. Some of the external affairs, communication, etc., are only the region from which the state can have their input in that. Okay, so when sender can have the input in other areas as well, that means there can be a economic development like other part of the country. Due to application of Article 370, the land in the state could only be sold and bought by the permanent residents of the state. As a result, large business houses do not invest in the region owing to land concerns. Okay, the final step will attract greater investment in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Okay, other important thing regarding the economic development is regarding tourism. Okay, now we know that in Jammu and Kashmir initially the state was enhancing the tourism, and the localites were only the person who were able to exploit the areas or exploit the opportunities of tourism. Okay, now private players can also involved in the tourism and also develop the area. Okay, this could further enhance the economic development of Jammu and Kashmir. When economic development comes, you might have read in border insurgency. Okay, in the northeast areas there is a decreased development. That is the reason why there is an increase in border atrocities. Okay, or insurgency. Similar to that what we see in Naxalism, etc., or left wing extremism, etc. Okay. Similarly, here when the economic development occurs, there might be a chance that there will be a decrease in terrorism as well. Okay. Okay. Next is regarding the effective implementation of the affirmative policies like right to education, right to information, etc. Initially, they were not available to the citizens of the Jammu and Kashmir according to Article 370. Okay. Also, reservation benefits to OBCs, SC, ST were not available to marginalized sections of the state. Okay. Now, the SC's verdict will help in implementation of this affirmative actions, right to education, right to information, right, reservations, etc., to that part of the country as well. Okay. So these are some of the merits of SC judgment. It will bring economic development. We can have affirmative actions, can curb terrorism, and also to curb the corruption, and through that way money laundering and other atrocities which are happening in the country. Okay, and most importantly, it can develop national integration feeling to the youth as well. Okay, we know that the youth may get diverted, or youth is getting diverted to terrorism in the area. Okay, so there is a chance that we can, or mostly not a chance, we can integrate the national integration of the country. Okay, but there are challenges as well. Okay, first thing is regarding the president's rule. The Supreme Court has validated the president's rule on the bilateral or unilateral power of the president to abrogate the 370. Okay, majoritarian government at the center can misuse the presidential rule to bring irrevocable changes to the states, like bifurcation of the state, without consulting the state legislative assembly. As we know, the revoking of 370 was a sudden act, right? So the state legislative assembly was not consulted initially, right? And also this presidential rule is making something which is big for the state. Okay, so this means that there will be a misuse by the majoritarian government. Okay, the president's rule was imposed and the parliament used the power to bifurcate the state into Jammu and Kashmir without consulting the state legislative assembly. Okay, now the Supreme Court has validated that the president has the power to do it, and also the State Organization Act is valid, through which the state was divided into union territories. Okay, so there may be a chance that the presidential rule or the power of the president is misused by the majoritarian government. Okay, this was one of the challenges. Next is regarding undermine the federal principles. Okay, Parliament can use its amending power to undermine the federalism and democratic processes. Okay, for example, Article 370 was amended by constant resolutions or concurrent resolutions without consulting the state legislative assembly of the Jammu and Kashmir. It was a sudden process without consultation. Okay, this mainly was done by the amending power of the parliament. So there may be a chance that the power of the special powers or the higher power, majority power of the parliament is misused. Okay, undermine the federal principles. Parliament can use its amending power to undermine the federalism and democratic processes. Since the state is not consulted, that means there is a disruption in the federalism. Okay, so this is another important challenge of the this one, abrogation or validation by the Supreme Court. Okay. Next is regarding the threat to regional identity. Initially, we can see that the instrument of accession was the reason, and the Hari Singh, who signed the instrument of accession, stated that there is a separate culture, there is a separate history, the unique identity to the Jammu and Kashmir. That is the reason why they do not want to integrate either with the Pakistan or the India, right? But they signed in order to, in the fear of invasion by the Pakistan. Okay, so this means that their lies, or they admire their uniqueness. Okay, so when there is a abrogation which is made all sudden, and the special status is taken away, so there might be a regional insecurity among the regional communities. Okay, so threat to regional identity. One of the primary rationales behind Article 370 was to preserve the unique identity, history, and culture of state Jammu and Kashmir. When the status was abrogated as a immediate effort or an immediate process, this means that this will raise insecurity among the regional communities. Okay, what they wanted to, or what they might have done, is regarding the consultation, or regarding giving time to the people to adjust to the new procedures, etc., or making an election, etc. Okay, that was not done. So there may be a chance that the insecurity will be developed between the regional communities. Then, harmonious relation. Okay, now we know that after the abrogation of 370, there was many violent incidences and also many insurgencies which were happened within the Jammu and Kashmir area, and there was many curfews, etc., that was implemented, or that formed there, right? So there may be a chance that the people, this major objective of the article was to promote national integration or create harmony among the people. But this might be questioned when there is a more separatism, and there may be a feeling of separatism and radicalism by these immediate efforts and the consequences which were formed after that. Okay. So harmonious relation may get affected, and the verdict or the separatism, radicalism, of which in the state of Jammu and Kashmir may fueled up. Okay, clear? Next is regarding the asymmetric federalism. It's this process or the verdict or challenges against the principle of asymmetric federalism. Okay. We know that some states are given special status, like Article 370 for Jammu and Kashmir, Article 371 for northeastern states, etc. Okay, or socio-economically backward states, etc. Okay, these are given to the states to have a special provision. Okay, this is a meaning of asymmetrical federalism. Okay, federalism meaning the country is divided into union and states have the power. Union is the power is distributed between the center and the state. In that also, some states are given special provisions. That is asymmetrical federalism. Okay, so this is against the principle of asymmetrical federalism in the Indian constitutions. Indian constitution. Okay, so what are the challenges we addressed? This is the basic concept or a basic idea through which you can write if any question is coming. You can add more points. Okay, the basic, what are the challenges? Misuse of presidential rule is happening, will happen. Next thing is, it is federal principles might be affected, and also the asymmetrical federalism of the country is against the asymmetrical federalism policy of our Indian constitution. And also this is provided, or this is made to ensure the national integration or harmonious relationship, but it will in fact may fuel up the separatist tendency or the radicalization in the country. Okay, then regional disparities or regional differences, identities may be a problem to the Jammu and Kashmir or the people there. Okay, what can be done? Okay, set up Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Okay, so this is another recommendation by the Supreme Court. Okay, Supreme Court said that there need to be a Truth and Reconciliation Commission which need to be set up in the Jammu and Kashmir. Okay, this commission will ensure or will analyze the violations of human rights in the Jammu and Kashmir both by state and non-state actors. Okay, but the important thing is the commission will not be act as a criminal court, but instead it will be based on dialogue. Okay, first recommendation was to set up the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission means they will analyze or look up into the various violations which are happened in the Jammu and Kashmir, human rights violations especially, and they will act accordingly or will have a dialogue regarding the violations. Okay, but they won't be acting like a criminal court. Okay, next recommendation by the Supreme Court is we discuss this regarding the reorganization or the ensure that the statehood of the Jammu and Kashmir is brought back and there should be elections in the next elections. Okay. Next is regarding the de-radicalization. We know that youth are getting more radicalized, or youth are mainly into radicalized tendency, and many non-state actors and state actors are developing them radicalization tendency in them. Okay, and they are getting migrated into, or they are getting shifted into the radicalized activity. So there need to be more efforts from the government part to have a de-radicalization there and make understand the youth that this process and even the development of the economic development of the area will help in de-radicalization. Check the misuse of APSPA. APSPA is Armed Forces. Yes. Okay. APSPA. So we know that after the this abrogation, there were violent activities in the area, and the APSPA or the armed forces were deployed there, right? So there, these armed forces have a special right that to control the violent areas, and they have special right unlike the other armed forces. Okay, so this means that they might have, or the normalcy of the area is often getting disrupted by APSPA. APSPA is often deployed in the northeastern states like Nagaland, etc. Okay, mainly to ensure that the protection of the area is secured, and we know that many insurgent activities are happening there also. Okay, to prevent that, the APSPA is there. But APSPA sometimes can be a negative impact, can create a negative impact on the people by stringent laws, by stringent implementation. They have a special protection, or they have special rights for the implementation, etc. Okay, so there need to be a check on the misuse of APSPA. Okay, the APSPA provisions must be withdrawn in a phase-bound manner from the areas which attain normalcy. Okay. We cannot pull the APSPA at a single or an immediate at a one go, because there may be chances that there may be disruptions or radicalization incidences in different parts. So there may be a phased out manner. These APSPA should be removed from the area. Next one is focus in development. I said de-radicalization and focus in development could go hand in hand. Okay, the main focus of the government and also the private parties for that matter could be inclusive. Government may be mainly of the inclusive economic development. Okay, and also we said that the affirmative policies can further enhance the development. Okay, also if private entities have a right to own land or have a property there, which was not possible before due to the special status of the 370. Okay, now they can have a land and create their own firms, and also tourism could be developed. Okay, so this will in turn develop in the bring development in the area.